All right, today we're going to look at a blueprint for community development that basically flips the traditional aid model right on its head. We're going to see how real lasting change doesn't come from the outside in, but actually grows from the inside out.
You know the story, right? These well-meaning aid programs show up with big plans and big promises. But then, when the funding runs out and the outsiders pack up and leave, the same old problems creep back in. So that begs the question, how do you create change that actually sticks? The answer, it turns out, is putting the community itself in the driver's seat.
The strategy we're talking about is called Community Health Evangelism, or CHE for short. Now, don't get too hung up on the name. The core idea is what's really powerful here. It's a program that's all about equipping local people to be the heroes of their own story. Think of it this way. It's not a handout, it's a handbook for self-reliance.
So, how does a journey like this even kick off? Well, it all starts with one simple but totally non-negotiable ingredient.
Okay, this is the big one. This is the absolute foundation of the entire model. You can't force this from the outside. The whole process only ignites if the community itself genuinely wants things to be different. That internal motivation, that little spark, that's the fuel for everything that comes next.
So, once that desire is there, the process can finally begin. And the very first step isn't what you'd expect. It's not about bringing in a bunch of outside experts to do the work. It's about finding and equipping the leaders who are already there.
And this happens in two stages. First, they hold something called a vision seminar for the existing leaders. You know, the village elders, teachers, small business owners, just anyone people already look up to. It's about a 14-hour intro to the whole CHE philosophy. Then, from that group, the most promising folks get invited to a Training for Trainers course. And this thing is an intense, multi-day workshop that gets them ready to be the very first wave of trainers for their own people.
All right, so now you've got this newly trained local team. They're fired up and ready to go. The next phase is all about carefully and respectfully taking that first step into a specific community.
So these new graduates, they form small teams. And their first job is to pick a village. What's so cool is how they choose. They don't just throw a dart at a map. They actually spend time observing and talking to people to find a community that seems genuinely open to the idea. Once they're in, they hold an awareness seminar. And this isn't a lecture. It's a guided conversation where the villagers themselves identify their own problems and, just as importantly, their own strengths.
And this right here, this is the whole philosophy in a nutshell. The facilitators are not there to say, hey, you guys need a new well right here. Nope. They're there to ask the right questions so that the community can look around and decide for itself what matters most. The power of choice is completely in their hands.
Okay, now we get to the most critical transition in the entire process. This is the phase where the initial trainers start to take a step back and the community formally takes the reins.
Two really important groups are formed. First, the community elects its own CHE committee. Think of them as the board of directors, the ones providing the vision and leadership. Then you have people who volunteer to become CHE workers. These are the real grassroots champions, the ones who are going to take the lessons door to door, to their actual neighbors.
And of course, they don't just get thrown into the deep end. The new committee gets about 18 hours of solid training on how to lead and manage the program. And the volunteer workers, usually somewhere between 15 and 25 of them, they get trained on the specific topics that the committee decided were the top priorities, whether that's hygiene, personal finances, or better farming techniques.
So we've got a local committee and a team of trained volunteers. The whole structure is in place. But how does change actually happen on the ground, in people's day-to-day lives? It all boils down to a simple, repeatable cycle of action.
You can think of this as the engine of the whole program. First, the CHE workers have to walk the talk. They apply the lessons in their own lives and their own families first. This gives them incredible credibility. Then, each volunteer visits a small group of their neighbors, maybe 5 to 10 homes, and they're not just there to talk. They're there to listen, to hear what challenges people are really facing right now.
This quote just perfectly nails the power shift that happens. Those original trainers who started the whole process, they're still around, but their job is completely changed. They are no longer leading from the front. They become mentors, coaches, and cheerleaders, supporting the local leaders from the sidelines.
So, when a bigger problem comes up, maybe the water source is contaminated or a bridge washes out, it's not the external team that swoops in to save the day. It's the local CHE committee that steps up. They gather the community, and they lead the problem-solving process together. The ownership is now 100% local.
But a truly great program doesn't just survive in one place, it multiplies. The ultimate sign that this whole thing has worked is when a community can turn around and teach others how to thrive too.
Yeah, the goal here isn't to create one little island of success. The goal is to spark a movement. A community that has successfully transformed itself becomes this living, breathing example for all the villages around it, creating this incredible ripple effect of change.
And this isn't just wishful thinking. This ripple effect is actually built right into the system. Check this out. In year 1, let's say Community A gets its program up and running. By year 2, they've figured out who their top-performing CHE workers are. Those folks then get the same advanced training for trainers course, and then by year 3, that new team from Community A is heading over to neighboring Community B to start the whole process over again. It's designed to be self-replicating.
So what about the money? Isn't that always the catch? Well, this is where the model is really smart. It is designed to be funded almost entirely from within. The vast majority of resources, like 85%, come from the community itself. Small income-generating projects can cover most of the other costs. Outside funding isn't totally off the table, but it's treated as an absolute last resort, which means the program is never dependent on outsiders to survive.
Which brings us to a final, pretty big thought. In a world of massive, top-down aid projects, what if this hyper-local, person-to-person model is the real future of sustainable development? It suggests that maybe the most powerful resource for change isn't money or expertise from the outside. Maybe it's the potential that already exists inside every single community, just waiting to be unlocked, one neighbor at a time.